Hey everyone out there on the internet. I said that I was going to have a video looking at the NBA offseason, take a little break from the whole World Cup videos, being especially since I need to make a World Cup video tomorrow because we will be finishing the round of 32 and I'll want to make a video about that. So, here's where we stand on the NBA offseason. There are four big things that have happened so far during this offseason, and maybe there'll be other big ones. We don't know for sure, but uh, a lot of these were we'd seen the writing on the wall that they were likely to happen, so there might not be anything of these big. Uh, First, Jalen Brown was traded to the 76ers. To me, this makes no sense. Uh, the Celtics had their needed two stars, and they didn't get much in the trade. They got an over the hill Chris Paul, who, at one point was probably one of the top 10 players in the NBA, but it's been many, many years since that was the case. And they got a few trades. They did get some draft picks. Okay, they did get draft picks. What this seems to tell me is that the Celtics felt like they needed a reset. I guess the Celtics felt like after they lost Porzingis and Holiday that um, and Hartford that they just didn't have what it took, and so they needed some sort of reset. I'm not quite sure why they felt that way, since one of their two best players was injured all season. They still did very well in the rankings. Things fell apart during the playoffs, yes, but sometimes that happens, and you didn't have a full health 100% best player. He just wasn't. So I'm not quite sure why they decided to hit eject. My only guess is they thought they were never going to get a better price for Brown than now after his best season ever that he had. That's about all I can think of for why they did. But this now pretty much means the Celtics aren't going to be in the Eastern race. Okay, they're not going to be the representing the East in the NBA Finals. Giannis, he went to the Heat. Now, once again, we knew there were all sorts of trade ideas going on for Giannis. Uh, Basically, the Bucks have no, they can't do it. They can't. Their period of being able to win has passed. They managed to win once, and if there hadn't been an injury to Middleton, they might have been able to win again the next year. They made a horrible trade for Dame, and it cost them. I actually knew it was going to be bad when they did it. I went, "Why are you doing that? Why are you making this trade? This is a horrible trade." Um, and it was a horrible trade. And they're paying because of the repercussions of that and the fallout, which they're still feeling. They knew they weren't going to win a championship anytime soon, period. And so let's try to get what we can for Giannis, and let's just go young. And so I understand why they did it. I understand why the Heat did it. The Heat need one of those top 10 players. The simple fact is, um, no team has won the NBA championship without one of the top 10 best players currently in the NBA for decades. Okay? It's not just you need a really good player, you literally need this superstar that's one of the 10 best, or you're not going to win. The Heat now have that superstar. They got some good people behind them, but they really depleted their team with this trade, and so we'll have to see how they're able to rebuild it with the talent they have, and if they're able to pull in more talent. Pat Riley is very smart. He'll probably find a way to do it, but I don't think necessarily he'll do it by this season. He might need another season to fully fill it out. Third big story, Kawhi Leonard going back to the Raptors. Hey, he gets to go back and reunite in Toronto with almost none of his previous teammates because they're all different from when he won a championship there. We know the Lakers want to move on and get a younger team. Now, the Lakers are also in this mode of, look, it's not going to happen. All right, so let's get rid of the old people, try to get bargains for them. Let's try to start something new. And I think they got like a young, energetic team, and that's cool. And they'll probably still be able to at least make the play in with their team. But they knew they weren't going to be competing. The Raptors do get better. I just don't necessarily see them being good enough to really fully compete in the East. I feel with Jaylen Brown, the 76ers are better. I feel the Knicks are still going to be better next year. The Pistons probably will be better because they are a young group and they'll be just even better. And maybe the Raptors could come in fourth. Um, so I'm not quite sure why the Raptors did it, but then also what they traded wasn't that spectacular either. And then the fourth one is that LeBron said he's not returning to the LA Lakers. He's going to go to another team. All right. And that is big news. We don't know how it's going to end. Obviously, I guess the last big news will be finishing this story. Don't think it's a new story, but the story isn't done until we know exactly where LeBron is going to end up. And speaking of the Lakers, because yeah, I'm a Laker fan, and they're my team, I want to talk a little bit about what they did, even though the LeBron thing is the big news about the Lakers, but there is lesser news which is pretty big, and that's they traded to get Kessler, and they overpaid for the trade, and Kessler's being overpaid for the player he is. All right. Um, but they now have their big. I actually think they were getting pressured from Doncic to get that big, and I think they could have been a little more patient. They could have seen if they could have grabbed on the free market the Pistons center, Durham, and he would have fulfilled their needs probably just as well as Kessler. And they could have gone for that same amount of money probably, and just his salary, like without trading your picks. I think it wasn't the best deal. I think they're trying to do something now, and I don't think they have to. I don't even think it's the best idea because the West is still gonna got to go through Oklahoma and San Antonio. And I mean, after this trade, the Lakers probably are third best, but then that's not changing much from where they were last year. Okay, if they were healthy, then yeah, they probably were the third best team in the West. So they at least had the cap space to get their big, and they now have their big. With Doncic and Reeves powering the offense, what they needed was a rim protector, a lob threat, a pick and roll big man, a perimeter defense, and dangerous 3-point threat. Those were the things that they needed given the people they had leaving or at least having their contract up. All right. So those were the things that they needed. Now, Kessler does give you a rim protector. He's an amazing rim protector. He's probably one of the three best in the NBA. And so they definitely get that. And yes, he can be a lob threat as well. His ability to do pick and rolls, we don't know. They haven't been the best. He hasn't been the most successful with pick and roll, but then he didn't have partners as skilled as Doncic or Reeves. So having them as partners, it might go fine. All right, so he does pretty much satisfy what they needed in their center. That at least they did get what they needed. The things that really I find weird are the people they signed afterwards. Okay, because it means they might need another pick and roll big person, and they need good defenders on the perimeter, and they need 3-point shooters, and so they signed Quentin Grimes for averaging 15 million a year, and he's a good defender of guards. He actually is a pretty good defender of guards, but he's not a great. And he can distribute the ball, but he's not that great at defending wings, and he's not a really high caliber scorer either. So I mean, I mean, yeah, he makes a third guard who's a really good third guard, but beyond that, I mean that's it. They also signed Colin Sexton, who is a good 3-point shooter. He averages about 40%. Uh, and the problem is he doesn't have defensive abilities at all. And then the final one was Subdro Mumakelashvili. I'm sorry, I'm butchering his last name. Uh, but Mamu, who He is also a good 3 point shooter. He's in the high 30%, and he's another big man who could probably pull off the pick and roll. He's 6'9", and he actually sometimes has played center and sometimes played power forward. Uh, and but so what this means is they're missing. They did pick up 3 point shooters, but they're still missing a defender in the wings. Uh, and the thing is, what they needed, they already had on their team in Marcus Smart and Rio Hachimura. All right, Rio Hachimura is actually a better 3 point shooter than any one of these three. Uh, he's actually like in the mid 40%, low to mid 40% free throw percentage, or 3 point percentage. All right, so he's a better 3 point shooter than them, and he actually is a decent defender. I'm not claiming he's going to be all defensive team, but he's a decent defender in the wings and really showed it in the playoffs. Marcus Smart is an amazing defender himself. Like, he's not, he doesn't have a lot of offense, but he's great at defense. And they could have re-signed him for like 7.5 million, less than they signed any of these three, because he signed for about 7.5 million to the Houston Rockets, and they now are having trouble finding money to re-sign Hachimura because they really do want him because he's that 3 and D player that they really need and want. Um, and so it just seems like they spent a good amount of money on players that you ultimately, maybe one of them would be a starter and the other ones are playing from the bench. And so I'm I don't think those were necessarily the best uses of their money as well. So we'll see. We'll see if the Lakers can still pull off re-signing Hachimura. That is one of the what the really number one goal should be now is to sign him because he would slot in perfectly as one of their forwards. Well, that's my take on some of the NBA stuff that's been happening in this offseason. Tomorrow I'll be back talking about the World Cup and the end of the round of 32. I'll see you there.